Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. My reading week has been mixed, although mostly good. I started the reading week with Assyria by Eckart Frahm. This is a history of Assyria. Assyria was an ancient kingdom. It started as a city-state called Ashur that gradually over the centuries became a territorial kingdom and later an empire. Fromm claims it to be the world's first empire. I'm a bit skeptical. So Ashur was one of the first cities, a little bit younger than, say, Uruk and Ur, but Ashur was a city-state in northern Mesopotamia, what is now northern Iraq. Initially in the old Assyria period, when it was just the city-state of Ashur and its hinterlands, the city was very commercially oriented, and in fact it appears to have had some representative institutions. The king was a first amongst equals, and there are a ton of sources from Assyrian merchants. After decades or centuries being subject to proto-states or proto-empires, Akkad, some of the later Ur dynasties, Ashur was, I guess, a more militaristic, a more militaristic dynasty came to the throne that would rule Assyria for the better part of a millennium. And this sort of initiated the Middle Assyria period, where Assyria became a territorial state, eventually joining the Great Kingdoms. In this late Bronze Age period, there were a number of great kingdoms. Babylon, Egypt, Mitanni, the Hittites, the Mycenaean Greeks, if you squint, and eventually Assyria, who replaced Mitanni. And then the Bronze Age collapse happened. And then there were a bunch of minor clients' kingdoms, either those that remained city-states, or I guess city kingdoms, or were smaller territorial kingdoms. But then the late Bronze Age collapse happened. Many of the smaller kingdoms were wiped away, and most of the greater kingdoms were affected, shrank. A few went away, the Hittites notably, but the Assyrians seem to have held on. And with the beginning of the Neo-Assyrian period, Assyria reconquered its lost territories and then began an imperialistic expansion, not only south into Babylonia, but also to the east in Elam, to the north, to Anatolia, to the Levant, and eventually Egypt, even though Assyria could never really hold Egypt for long. So that's a quick overview of Assyrian history. To be honest, I have mixed feelings for this book. On the one hand, I quite enjoyed it. There are parts of the book that are very enjoyable. But then there's the claim in the subtitle, the world's first empire, that I don't quite buy it. Because that honor really should go to Akkad. Because it was the first city-state or proto-territorial state that incorporated a number of other states. I mean, it was tiny compared to most later empires. And the usage of the first always raises my hackles. I'm never comfortable with this kind of boosterism because because it always involves knocking down other kingdoms and stuff like that. So that kind of bugged me, and it was a consistent annoyance throughout my reading of the text. There are also a few chapters that I'm just not sure about. There's a late chapter called that's about life in the Assyrian Empire that I thought could have been really incorporated throughout the text, throughout the later text, as life in Old Assyria was earlier in the book. I'm also not entirely sure about the chapter called "At the Gates of Jerusalem," which I don't know if it really warranted a chapter on its own, because, but then again, I guess maybe I'm a bit funny about how biblical and classical sources get used in these kinds of histories. Could be that, but I'm not sure about that chapter. And then the last three chapters look at the legacy of Assyria, and those three chapters probably could have been condensed down into a general conclusion, because I don't think they worked. So anyway, I thought Assyria was a very mixed bag, although I guess more on the disappointing side, since the ancient Near East is my wheelhouse, and I was hoping for a really good book, since I've been rather disappointed with a lot of the ancient Near East books that I've read recently. Now, my reading markedly improved, although I was kind of afraid that maybe I might have been on an off history period. But the next book was pretty good. I quite liked it, and that is The Mongol Storm by Nicholas Morton. This is a history of Mongol interactions in the Near East, primarily through the Ilkhanate. So, at the time that the Mongols first invaded the Near East, there were a number of warring states. There were the Crusader states, what was left of the Byzantine Empire. There was the Seljuk Turks, or the Seljuk Sultanate, the Ayyubid Sultanate, what was left of the Abbasid Caliphate, and other kingdoms and states as well. So then the Mongols came in and disrupted everything, as the Mongols are wont to do. And the northern part of the Near East became the Ilkhanate. And so the book really explores that century of Mongol interaction with the Near East, from the 1220s through to 1335, with the largely the dissolution of the Ilkhanate. And I quite enjoyed the book. It was a pretty good read. So each chapter starts off from the Mongol perspective, and then shifts into looking at the perspectives of the other protagonists, the Franks, the Ayyubids, the Mamluks, the Armenians, so on and so forth. And it was a pretty interesting read. I quite liked it, so I was really happy to have read it. Now, I managed to finish The Mongol Storm by Thursday. Largely because I ended up pulling a Steve on Wednesday morning, which was annoying. I ended up waking up about 1:52, it was about 2 o'clock, and I could not go back to bed. So I decided to just read about 2 chapters of Mongol Storm for that day, and then I read a bit more, so I managed to finish the book on Thursday. So I decided to start on one of the other reading events that are taking place in May. And so for Horror Mayhem and May of the Moderns, one of the books I wanted to read was The Black Stranger and Other Stories and Other American Tales by Robert E. Howard. I've never read this book. I've had it for a number of years, and it is one of the few books I have that both pretty much get to both. So I read the first story, The Black Stranger, and I completely forgot that it's a Conan story. I'm a bad fantasy fan. Anyway, so why the heck is a Conan story set in the Hyborian Age in a short story collection that's theme is American Tales? Well, that's because when Robert E. Howard created the Hyborian Age, he basically threw in any number of influences to sort of create his fantasy prehistory. And one of the peoples he used were the Picts, who were a ancient Scottish people who had interactions with the Romans. Now, Howard's version of the Picts are inspired by Native Americans. And a lot of the stories that feature the Picts, particularly in the Hyborian Age, draw very heavily on American sort of narratives with, I guess in this case it would be colonial narratives of encounters with Native Americans. And so in this story, Conan is running from a band of Picts when he stumbles across a treasure. At the same time, Zingaran refugees have set up a small colony on the coast of the lands dominated by the Picts. So it's very similar to, say, early colonial settlers in what's now the United States. One day, two pirate ships come to the settlement seeking the treasure that Conan found. The leader of the settlement, the colony, knows nothing about this treasure, although both pirates believe he does. In actual fact, the leader is fleeing from a demon. So eventually things work out to where the settlement leader, the two pirates, and Conan go to collect the treasure. Conan planning on betraying the four of them and then taking over the pirate crews and basically selling off to become a pirate, as Conan is wont to do. And things go belly up. The Black Stranger is not one of my favorite Conan stories, which is probably why I actually forgot it was a Conan story. Although that said, it is one of those stories where did it really need to be a Conan story? Because, because a good chunk of the story, Conan's not even present for. But anyway. But yeah, again, The Black Stranger is not one of my favorite Conan stories, so I don't know necessarily if I really want to read any more of this book. We shall see. But anyway, so my plan for this coming reading week is going to be a bit weird, but I want to try it anyway. So I think what I'm going so option one is for Saturday I read Rameses the Great by Toby Wilkinson. This is a biography of Rameses II, which I'm hoping to write a review for Open Letters, and I can easily read it all tomorrow. And then once I finish Rameses the Great, I can come back to Black Stranger by Robert E. Howard, which is a collection of short stories that features at least some of Howard's American set fiction, and one that's inspired by American colonial literature. And then over the course of the reading week, or the work week, so Monday through Thursday, I would read the first 8 volumes of Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic by Shinobu Ohtaka. So I'd read like 2 volumes every day to get to volume 8, since that's pretty much what I have continuously. I'm missing volumes 9 and 10, and then sporadically, like I think it's 13 and 15 I'm missing, and then 21 through 27 and 32 are all that I'm missing. Although I would really like to find them and really need to make an effort to try to do that. But anyway, so Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic is a shonen manga series about a young wizard named Aladdin who travels a world inspired by the 1001 Nights looking for friendship and adventure. He finds a friend in a young man named Alibaba, and they go on adventures invading and capturing dungeons and getting involved in all sorts of other epic adventures. It's been a while since I've read Magi, and I'm really looking forward to reading it, so yeah. And then once I finish Magi, excuse me, I'll either start on The Return of the Sorcerer by Clark Ashton Smith, again for Horror Mayhem and May of the Moderns, or I might try to read all of Troy Jollimore, which would be, he's a poet, so it'd probably be At Lake Scugog. So that's option 1. Option 2 would be I stick with Rameses the Great tomorrow. I'll get back to this at some point in the future. Either it's a dedicated read or just dipping in to see if I like it or not. But on Sunday, read all of Troy Jollimore, in which case it would be At Lake Scugog, Syllabus of Errors, and Earthly Delights. And then sticking with Magi throughout the reading week, and then figuring something out on Friday. And then option 3 would be I would read 4 volumes of Magi tomorrow, 4 volumes on Sunday, and over in the afternoons, get back to this. And then start on Rameses the Great on Monday, and then maybe these 3 after I finish Rameses. So that's kind of my plan. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I'll decide that tomorrow before I start my day. Anyway, so I know there's been a dearth of videos this week. largely because I've been wanting to make a discussion video, and that discussion video has not gone well. Usually, so I want to make at least one video every day during the work week. And if I don't make a video, it's usually whatever video I wanted to make did not go well. And that's what happened this week. The tag video I did on Tuesday, which I'm blanking on the name of it. I think it was the Think Twice tag. I actually tried to do that on Monday and it didn't go well. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and even today, I tried to make a video discussing my recent unhaul. So on Tuesday, I mentioned that I was going to finally donate those 3 boxes of books that I made unhaul videos of in March and early April. That I was finally going to donate them. And I did. So since I made those videos, those 3 boxes of books have been in the living room. And my mom has been wanting to rearrange furniture for a while, but those 3 boxes of books kind of put a stop to that. And I must admit, I have been waffling about donating them. And in fact, if I hadn't donated them on Tuesday, I probably would have unboxed them and put them back on my shelves, which I could have done because I do have a new bookcase. It would have been like 2 weeks ago tomorrow that I got it. So I could have put them on there. But I also decided, no, I really need to donate them. So I did. I donated them. I took them to donate to the drop-off place for the Friends of the Waco McLennan County Library. So hopefully they will be in the upcoming book sale and will find new homes. And then so on Wednesday, I instead of doing when I decided to cancel the video, I went and removed the unhauled books from my collection. And so I donated 92 books, which is impressive. I'm surprised it was that many. So I'm now at 1,342 books. It was 1,339, but I have since gotten in 3 more books, so it's 1,342. And I'll talk about those books with my May book haul. Anyway, what else is there? I think that's about it. Except for I did want to also talk a bit about revising my library plans. But I think I might hold off on that because I need to go through my classics, canonical, modern, contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama, and reorganize them and figure out exactly what I want to do with that new bookcase. If it's going to be like an annex to classics, canonical, modern, contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama, or where I put pretty much the other books, the general genre fiction, the general nonfiction. But I don't think I'm going to be doing any major unhauls in the near future because I do have the space to really kind of incorporate a lot more books. Although, I mean, the only issue I think is how the various parts of the collection expand. Because I pretty much determined what contours my collection is going to be like. The history wall is pretty set, although I've got like 3 shelves for them. Manga, I want to pretty much do this whole wall, plus the headboard bookcase and a wall shelf above it, above my bed. and then science fiction and fantasy being just this here, and then everything else in the hall. So yeah. But anyway, next week. So next week I'm gonna do some tags. Maybe try to do some discussion videos. I've been thinking about trying to do a video in which I ask if anybody on YouTube or on BookTube has done a BookTube calendar that lists like all of the events, all of the readathons, all of the book clubs, just all of it, so that we can pretty much know what's going on month to month, because I've completely forgotten when BookTube at War takes place. Is it in June or is it in July? I don't know. But I guess I could split the difference and do like a war nonfiction in June and July, or I might do some form of other reading as well. I don't know. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do for my June TBR event if I want to make one. But anyway, BookTube, that's about all I got for this reading week. I might also do a video where I talk about some of the, well, I guess what I ought to do is while I upload this video, do a dry run of one of the tags I want to create and see how easy it would be to do. Because I think what I might do is I might go ahead and do like an original tag and then also do a Q&A for my 900th video. Because I could do both. It's not like I have to only create original tags every artificial milestone I set. So anyway, but again, that's all I got for this week. So until I see you hopefully on Monday, thank you, BookTube. Have a great evening and weekend, and until I see you next time, stay safe.